Brian Shabb was confident Operation Cormack had already interviewed, photographed and filed the man who had raped and murdered Teresa. Nevertheless, he needed a proven DNA link between the semen the killer had left on her body and the blood samples given to police. Sue Patricevic was testing 14-year-old blood samples, looking for that match.
Because we're humans, a lot of our DNA is similar. For example, we all have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, the same basic functions. A lot of DNA controls those functions and processes. What we're interested in the forensic aspect is the regions where people differ. So we're looking for regions where people differ and where they differ as much as possible.
For forensic purposes, an individual's DNA is simplified.
In this system, a person's DNA is represented in 20 numbers.
845 old suspect blood samples were examined by ESR. It took nearly a year of meticulous work. Eventually, the results were in. 4 blood samples were of insufficient quality to produce a profile. Of the 841 that did generate DNA profiles, 840 did not match that from the stored semen sample. But 1 did.
I looked at the first 2 and they matched, and I looked at the next 2 and they matched, so I looked at the first 2 again and the next 2 again, and I went through the whole series and each one matched. And of course, as each number matches, it becomes more and more exciting because you realise that you're onto a correspondence here with an individual.
That individual was Jules Meekus. Brian Shabb finally had the name of Teresa Cormack's killer.
So I then, of course, had no information in my office at all to tell me who this guy was. He didn't mean anything to me off the top of my head, so I had to rush across to our headquarters building, which is over in Dalton House, get down into the basement there where the original file was still stored, and grab that copy.
Meekus had a history of sexual offending going back 11 years before Teresa's death. He had been one of the police's top suspects and had offered an alibi for early in the morning of her abduction. But ESR told Brian Shabb that it was 60 million times more likely to get the profile match if the DNA came from Jules Meekus than from any other man in New Zealand. Those were good enough odds for Brian, and there was one person he was particularly eager to tell of the match.
Knowing Kelly's circumstances, I wanted to have someone there to help the 2 of us get through what was going to be a real, emotional time, I suppose, especially for Kelly. And it was quite good because my wife came round with me and she met Kelly for the first time.
I had a gut feeling something big was happening, but I thought, was it a counsellor? What am I going to need counselling for? And my biggest fear was actually, is it someone I have known, or? Because I thought there must have been something big happen. And when Brian arrived with his wife, that was wonderful, and the news, I just didn't know quite what to do. Sort of laugh or cry, or just sort of head in my hands, and then just looked at each other and grinned. And
Meekus was living near Wellington. Brian was itching to grab him.
I mean, that was really hard. I know when I took a couple of guys from here down with me to Lower Hutt, we got there on the Sunday and we just wanted to rush out there and lock him up.
I think a couple of times we looked at each other and said, well, should we go and do it now?
Brian knew he had to prepare fully for an arrest. With the scrutiny of a High Court trial expected sometime in the future, there was no room for procedural errors. But now he was only 2 days away from looking into the eyes of the man who killed Teresa Cormack.
The body was found, taken. There was one red button missing from her red pinafore she was wearing at the time. The ratio is 1 to 60 million.
2 days prior to taking Jules Meekus into custody, Detective Sergeant Brian Shabb travelled from Napier to Wellington. Helping him prepare for the arrest was Detective Keith Price. With one of New Zealand's highest ever profile investigations about to make an arrest in their neighbourhood, staff at Lower Hutt Police Station needed to be briefed on the operation that had just walked into their office.
The guy's name is Jules Pierre Nicholas Meekus. Surname Meekus. He currently resides here in Nainai. So he's the boy.
We don't want the media to know of this development between now and tomorrow.
Teresa Maida, M-A-I-D-A, Cormack.
Application for the warrant that would bring Mikas in was carefully prepared, while additional police resources were readied.
I couldn't see any problems at the address. There was no dogs, so it's a fairly open section from the street.
Covert surveillance guaranteed that Mikas would be home when police called the following day.
He's got long hair, with his missus and a young baby.
Yeah,
in his car, and he's there, and they're just sitting there watching him, waiting for us.
Here we go, here we go.
Now the second part is I've been here and I've got him.
Oh yeah. Just put him through the cell. Yeah. He wants to talk to the cell.
He's coughed.
Oh good work, Sponge.
Yeah, so they're watching him and they'll see him to bed tonight.
Well, I knew he was there and I knew he wouldn't be too far away, but...
Finally, with all the planning in place, the day had come to lock up the man who had taken an innocent 6-year-old girl's life.
Has anyone got a set of handcuffs? Yep. It's worth a chest. Yeah, in my desk.
The normally cool Brian Shabb is now noticeably apprehensive.
Luck, Shabby.
It's not luck anymore. Hey, yeah, did I say it last night when we were having a few beers? But thanks for coming, and I'm sure you'll do well.
We will. Sure don't, Shabby.
No, it's finally Teresa's day.
Yeah.
And I just have to remind this boy off it at some stage.
It's sort of Jules' day a bit too.
Oh, it's Jules' big day.
Jules' big day.
Jill will remember. Yeah.
Last day, yeah.
It's last day, yeah. Actually quite, it's going to be quite good, the first look in the eye.
I mean, that's why you join the job, and you join the job to lock up the baddies, and you know, he was one of the worst baddies that you can ever imagine, and we were going out to lock him up for one of the worst crimes, so I mean, it was exciting.
This is the day we've all waited for, and he's probably waited for it too, I'd say.
It was a big moment, and it's probably I'll always remember, you know, that actual face-to-face contact. And he probably will too, I think, but for obviously different reasons. There was two ways that he could have reacted. You know, he could have just said, "Oh, thank God you're here, I've been expecting you, and come on in," or just completely deny everything and go about his business, you know, without any emotion at all. And that's what he did. And I mean, that's probably what deep down we thought he'd do because of the sort of guy he is.
We agreed to keep our camera hidden from Jules Mikas. Back at Lower Hutt Police Station, he was interviewed by detectives Shabb and Price.
You want to get an admission for an evidential side of things, and you also want to get what happened for, I call it, parents, victims, and you know, the extended family and friends. They're victims of this, and through admissions, you may be able to just help them come to grips with something.
I sort of try to get through to him saying, look, no, you can't be that cold-hearted person who's gone in there and just killed this beautiful young girl. I mean, you just tell me, you know, let me know you're not that person. I'm just trying to get through it. Oh, I don't know, it wasn't me, I don't know what you're talking about.
So get the photos.
So this will be the time it happens. If it happens now, it'll happen, otherwise we're just fucking wasting our time, eh?
Oh, okay.
Mikas was refusing to assist police with an admission of guilt, so there was only one thing left for Brian Shabb to do.
I'll never forget it. He stood him up and basically put his hand on his shoulder and said, "I'm formally arresting you for the murder." And yeah, it was pretty, it was quite moving, really.
The thing with this case, everything is good, you know, it's exciting, and it's good to have been there and that's the thing, but always, you know, you just can't help thinking about why it's all come about, you know, and you know, although, you know, everything would have been so much better. You know, I'd rather not have ever done any of that if he hadn't done what he did to Teresa.